What's up, everyone, and welcome to ClearTalk. So in this video, we're going to be finally talking about the Alligator Alcatraz, as it has been dubbed, the uh, illegal immigrant, undocumented immigrant, criminal, institution, detention center, concentration camp, all the different things that you could call it, uh, and how we're going to talk about it, the creation of it, what it's about, uh, and the broader connection to the big beautiful bill, and how the apparent idea of placing these all over the country, and the broader implications of you know the purpose of these things, and why, um what are we really doing as a country when it comes to the acceptance of these type of facilities being built and this type of action being made, because ultimately what this is just an answer to arguments against just deporting people to, say, somewhere like CCOT, or to to other facilities or whatever that's been argued for in Sudan, or whatever, is ultimately just for us to have our own right here, and to have a one-stop shop, as DeSantis kind of eloquently said, um, for hosting undocumented immigrants, to full on due process argument, to actually deportation, all in one. And so this is a concerning issue. So Alligator Alcatraz is the official name for a new immigrant detention center built at the abandoned Dade Collier Training and Transition Airport, that's within Florida's Big Cypress National Preserve, about 30 to 45 miles west of Miami, and alligator and python infested wetlands. This is It was constructed in just 8 to 10 days using emergency executive powers invoked by Governor DeSantis, bypassing standard environmental and procurement reviews. When full scale, it is designed to house up to 500 detainees. Initially, it was around 3,000. I'm sorry, 5,000. It was around 3,000, but it's supposed to be upscaled shortly, if not already, to 5,000 detainees, under modular tents, trailers, chain link cages with generated power electricity, over 28,000 feet of razor wire fencing. I thought the alligators and swamp area around was supposed to be the deterrent for people leaving, so why do we need the razor wire fencing? CCTV and reportedly about 400 personnel on site. They started taking in detainees around July 2nd and 3rd, shortly after the center's official opening. You had Donald Trump go down there along with Kristi Noem to tour the facility. We got those grand pictures and stuff going through, where it's basically just these huge ass tents that have these fenced cages, with bunk beds, and there's some outside area. Apparently, we've seen pictures of the detainees and stuff, put in. Where they're out in the field area, like a court of sorts, concrete area, and so this. Let's see here. there apparently have been videos and stuff floating around of MAGA supporters and stuff that have been outside the facility taking selfies and stuff, and like celebrating this whole thing, along with also plenty of people who are out there, which is drawing like controversial criticism there. And then also people who are out there, environmentalists and other people that have been protesting against the facility all up and down the road that leads to it. Yeah, reported conditions and stuff. Foods in the few days. I mean, we're only roughly 6-7 days out from when people started arriving there. That food served only once a day. That it's spoiled oftentimes with maggots, worms, whatever, being reported in the food. Lights on 24/7. No baths for days. Inaccessible personal hygiene facilities like flooded toilets next to the bunk beds, creating unsanitary environments like literally shit and piss on the floor. No access to medical care or prescription medicine. So this is leading to concerns with mental health deterioration and other issues, medical issues that any of the detainees would have. Even reported that there's denial of religious expression, including confiscation of religious material and stuff like that, and refusal to let them, practice any faith rituals or whatever. There's been Democratic state lawmakers have filed lawsuits against DeSantis and the emergency management director for denying them legal access to facilities. Lawmakers have tried to go out there and to have access and look at the facility ever since like the revealing of it with the Trump walkthrough and stuff. And they were being denied access. There have been lawyers and stuff that have been denied access over and over again. Being told to basically wait like 48 hours for acceptance and allowance of entrance into the place or whatever. I've seen that apparently tomorrow, the 12th, on Saturday, the facility is supposed to finally allow Democratic lawmakers and stuff to tour the facility, probably after they've done some cleanup work or whatever, made it look a little better. But yeah, we've had horrible reports coming out from the area and the conditions and stuff. I mean, immediately after Trump's tour of it, you had, it was kind of placed. The concern has always been around the fact of where it is. It's in a major flood zone in South Florida. It's susceptible to, especially coming up on the hurricane season. And these are just tents with cages in them. And supposedly the facility was built to withstand Category 2 winds and rain. But like shortly after Trump left from his tour, apparently a rainstorm came through while DeSantis and some press members and whatnot were having a kind of a press briefing kind of thing or whatever. A small kind of a thunderstorm come through, and immediately people were showing where water was seeping up underneath the tents and falling through cracks and stuff in the roof, and it was so immediately it drew into question the actual strength and ability of this tent stuff to actually withstand a Hurricane 2 Category 2. There have been reports that from the people running it or whatnot, that they immediately had reinforcement done to the buildings and facilities, the tents or whatever, because it's not really buildings, trailers and stuff to try to address those concerns, and that they feel that it is now in better shape and condition. Um, so this has been a big, like, questionably going to turn into a huge PR nightmare for Florida and DeSantis if further, stuff is coming out on this as we go forward. I mean, we're only a week out, and we have all these types of reports of things going on. You have environmental groups, like I said, and the Makasuki tribe is also suing because this is indigenous land protections being violated, because this land is under the protections of the tribal protections and stuff, threatening endangered species and stuff like that, and disregarding of the National Environmental Policy Act. So that is something that's also an issue. You have federal judges that may pause the facility operation pending litigation because of protests and growing legal challenges against it. I mean, this is just a continuation of the questionable acts that this administration has done around immigration, when it comes to deportations and sending them to all these external facilities. Now, because of all the flack from that, we are creating our own facilities with what appears to be unacceptable conditions, at the just to put it nicely. And like, what how far, again, I asked the question just like I've have in the past few, how far are supporters of this regime and the actions that they are taking, how far are you going to allow them to go? How far are you going to defend these actions that are completely inhumane against people that they claim are criminals, are the worst of the worst? That's what this place was, what Trump said this place was for, was the worst of the worst. But yet all indications in reporting so far have been that the people in this facility are not dangerous people, that they are regulars, well, like they're just well behaved citizens, or undocumented immigrants. Even potentially a teenage boy, a 15-year-old teenage boy is here in this facility. So I have further report here from the Associated Press. It states detainees describe worms in the food, sewage near beds inside the Alcatraz. This is part of where I'm getting information from, but other sources as well have stated all this clearly too. Worms in the food, toilets that don't flush, food flooding floors with fecal waste, days without a shower or prescription medicine, mosquitoes and insects everywhere, lights on all night, air conditioners that suddenly shut off in the tropical heat, detainees forced to use recorded phone lines to speak with their lawyers and loved ones. Only days after Donald Trump toured a new immigration detention center in the Florida Everglades that officials have dubbed Alligator Alcatraz. These are some of the conditions described by people held inside. Attorneys, advocates, detainees, and families are speaking out about the makeshift migrant detention center. Republican Governor Ron DeSantis' administration raced to build on an isolated airstrip surrounded by swampland. The center began accepting detainees on July the 2nd. These are human beings who have inherited rights, and they have the right to dignity. Immigration attorney Josephine Arroyo, and they're violating a lot of their rights by putting them there. Government officials have admittedly disputed the conditions described by detainees, their attorneys, and family members, but have provided few details and have denied access to the media. A televised tour for Trump and DeSantis shows rows of chain link fences which contains dozens of bunk beds under large white tents. The reporting on the conditions in the facility are completely false. The facility means all required standards is in good working condition. Stephanie Hartman, a spokesperson for the Florida Division of Emergency Management, which built the center. A group of Democratic lawmakers sued DeSantis' administration for access. The administration is allowing a site visit by state legislatures and members of Congress on Saturday, July 12th. So before now, they've been, like I said, denied access to it, but they're setting up times and stuff where time on tomorrow where they can tour the facility. So we're going to see what is going to happen from that. Families and attorneys who spoke to the Associated Press relayed detainees' accounts of a place they say is unsanitary and lacks adequate medical care, pushing some into a state of extreme distress. Such conditions make other immigration detention centers where advocates and staff have warned of unsanitary confinements, medical neglect, and lack of food and water seem advanced, said immigration attorney Atara Eag, I guess. Trump and his allies have praised this detention center's harshness and remoteness as befitting the worst of the worst and as a national model for the deterrence needed to persuade immigrants to self-deport from the United States. But among those locked into the chain link enclosures are people with no criminal records and at least one teenage boy, attorneys told the AP. Immigration attorney Katie Blankenship described a concerning lack of medical care at the facility, relaying on an account from the 35-year-old Cuban client who told his wife that detainees go days without a shower, the toilets are in the same space as the bunk beds and can't handle their needs. The wife, a 28-year-old green card holder, and the mother of the couple's 2-year-old daughter, who is a U.S. citizen, relayed his complaints to the AP, fearing government retaliation. Of course, want to keep her identity safe. They have no way to bathe, no way to wash their mouths. The toilet overflows, and the floor is flooded with pee and poop. They eat once a day and have 2 minutes to eat. The meals have worms. The woman said the detainees all went on a hunger strike on Thursday night to protest the conditions. There are days when I don't know anything about him until the evening, she said, described waiting for his calls, interrupting every 3 minutes by an announcement that the conversation is being recorded. No meetings with attorneys. The detainees' attorneys say their due process rights are among numerous constitutional protections being denied. Blankenship is among the lawyers who have been refused access after traveling to the remote facility and waiting for hours to speak with her client, including a 15-year-old Mexican boy with no criminal charges. She was turned away by a security guard who told her to wait for a phone call in 48 hours that would notify her when she could return. I said, well, what's the phone call? What's the phone number that I can follow up with that? There is none. Blankenship recalled, we have due process obligations, and this is a violation of it. Arroyo's client, a 36-year-old Mexican man who came to the U.S. as a child, has been detained in the center since July 5th after being picked up for driving with a suspended license in Florida's Orange County. He's a beneficiary of a DACA program created to protect young adults who are brought to the U.S. as children from deportation to provide them with work authorization. Blankenship's Cuban client paid a bond and was told he'd be freed on a criminal charge in Miami, only to be detained and transferred to the Everglades. Eag has been seeking the release of a client in his 50s with no criminal record and a stay of removal, meaning the government can't legally deport him while he appeals. But she hasn't been able to get a bond hearing. She's heard that an immigration court inside the Crone Detention Center in Miami may be hearing cases from the Everglades facility, but as of Friday, they were still waiting. jurisdictions remains an issue. The issue is who's in charge over there is very concerning. So this is a facility that has been built supposedly on the idea of detaining the worst of the worst. Like I said, DeSantis said it was a one-stop shop. He planned on it being somewhere that they could be brought, that they could be trialed, and a runway access to be deported right there all in one place. Even throwing up the idea that in an interview that was alongside Trump, by the way, that they were looking into using the justice system, like waiting on acceptance from the justice system to allow to deputize agents like ICE agents, Border Patrol agents, to be judges. I shit you not. I shit you not. They wanted to try to deputize people who have absolutely no understanding of the legal process, like judging and working out situations like that, like to put them in charge of judging as to whether or not someone should be allowed to stay in the United States or not, or be deported. Now, how do you think that's going to go down? Now, I don't see how in the world any legal system would allow that. And from what I see so far, I don't believe that is being done. But that's the intent. When these people say things, even things that you go start scratching your head and like, that can't possibly be, like, what? We don't do that. Like, how can that even work? How did that happen? That's not even legal. Like, what? And even if your default is to say, yeah, that's not going to happen, they're never going to have that happen, like, whatever, I don't even care that he said that or whatever, like, that does not mean to just, you shouldn't let that go. Those are the types of things that people I see all the time letting go, but understand that that's the intent. That's what these people want. And they will keep pushing and keep pushing until they can get as close to it as possible. They're telling you who they are. They're telling you their mental, like, out there, the way they look at this situation, the way they look at these people. As having no more respect than to place them in front of unqualified people. I mean, let's continue our argument from the last video about merit. The idea that we would place people before people unmerited to decide whether or not they should be allowed to stay in the country or not. I mean, that idea, and he turned to Trump in that moment saying that, and like, we're going to try to, we're waiting on the justice system, but we're going to try to get that done, right? And Trump sitting there, yeah. This is wrong. Everything about this is wrong. Everything about this process has been wrong. This is not about getting criminals out. This is not about getting the worst of the worst out. We've said this over and over and over again. Over 90% of the people that have been picked up off the streets, been stolen off the streets, have been grabbed by masked individuals in unmarked gear, just and disappeared off the streets, have been taken from, all kinds of places that previously would have been considered, a no-go, whether it be churches, schools, courthouses, whatever, like all these things is going on. And then on top of that, we have a facility here that has been built with, completely unacceptable conditions. And the fact that this is not the end of it. Like, the intent, as we've seen in the One Big Beautiful Bill, was to add more ICE agents. They're adding more funding to grow up to over 100. I think it's the intent was over 100,000 beds across the United States for facilities. I think it actually passed with something around 150 maybe on that. I'm not completely sure, but that means, and we've talked about this also, if this facility is 5,000, they already are looking at creating another facility in North Florida, where this is already in plans for Florida before the Big Beautiful Bill. When they started talking, when they were doing the interviewing and stuff, and or talking about building this facility, there were already plans in progress for a facility in North Florida as well. 5,000 people held in these facilities, 100 to 150. We're talking that's 25 or more facilities, 25 to 30 facilities across the United States like this, to just house. And why are they doing this? Because they're picking people up off the streets like crazy, have nowhere to place them because all of our other facilities are packed to the brim with the conditions as we see going on in this facility, the same types of conditions happening. This is because, there is really no legal way for most to argue that these people should be deported. And what deportations they have done that we know are illegal deportations have had judicial backlash to stop them. So, to the point where there hasn't been any more planes to CCOT. There hasn't been anything going to Sudan like they wanted to. There hasn't even been that many going to Guantanamo either, because of the judicial pushback, which is, like we've spoke before, is one of the biggest things that's been going. I think this what has really saved a lot of the actions that this administration has constantly been trying to push for, with many wins on that, but also here and there has been some wins for the Trump administration as well in certain situations. But this is just these. How long are we going to let this type of stuff go on? Or do we really want these type of facilities all over the United States? With these type of, are we going to be known for? This is like building concentration camps all over the country. This goes back to the idea of when we had the Japanese internment camps and stuff. What are we doing here? Are we really? Is this the great America that you want this America to be made of? You want to go back to this, where we are housing immigrants people that are brown or whatnot may speak a different language. I mean, is that what we are? Is that what we're doing? And all in the name of what? So that you can start working the fields again? So you can start working construction again? Or like, so you can make sure that America stays white as possible? I mean, I don't understand. And how far are you as a supporter? For those of you out there that are supporters, how far are you going to let this go? What is there a red line for you? Is this cool? Wow, you know, clearly some have already been, selfieing and celebrating around the facility for how amazing they think it is. This is inhumane. This is wrong. This is not American. We are immigrants on a land that we stole. Fuck. Maybe it is American. But for me, that was not a great America. The history of this country was built on blood shed and imperialism that we have been trying to we have been trying to repair the damage ever since, for decades. And in one administration, in 6 months, we are already trying to completely undo all the things that we've been trying to work towards actually making America great, or at least trying to. The people that are so called think that they're making America great again is doing nothing but destroying it. Something's got to be done. This man, this administration, mm, they've got to be removed. I'm sick and tired of this. We're destroying people's lives here. These are people. These are human beings, and we're destroying their lives. There's nothing American. There's nothing free. There's nothing Christian. There's nothing moral. There's nothing patriotic about something like this. If you think that this is acceptable, then you seriously need to reevaluate yourself. Because you're on the wrong side of history. And history will hopefully remember this. And learn from it. Been ClearTalk. Peace. I'm out.